Season 2 is bringing in a fork ton of new players, and thanks to the anniversary rewards, you guys get to pick a free S-Rank agent and W engine at the start of the game. Technically it's 2, but I'll explain that a bit later. In today's video, I'm going to give you some thoughts and opinions about which engines or characters are worth investing into as you select them for free. And remember, Zenless is a game that you can have an insane amount of fun with if you have a little bit of knowledge in your pocket. Let's start with the easiest decisions first, your W engine. Now, this is always going to be nuanced, so make this decision based on your own account. I cannot stress that enough. That means if I recommend Fusion Compiler as the best general option, but you already have 9 Fusion compilers and no anomaly unit, then please don't pick Fusion Compiler and blame me for it. With that out of the way, the Brimstone is almost always the best DPS engine to choose in this scenario, due to it being a large combat attack booster with easy trigger conditions. It doesn't provide any crit value, but that can be made up for with good substats once you reach the end game. Early game, don't worry about subs. After that, I personally like Hellfire Gears more than the Restrained for my stun engine, but that's because of the recent upticks in off-field stun agents as of late. Hellfire Gears increases ERR off the field and buffs impact by 20% for using 2 EX specials. Most stunners don't have energy issues, so popping 2 EX specials is kind of cakewalk. Is that what they say? Cakewalk? It's a cakewalk. I don't want to leave you guys with no real decisions though, so let's kind of just go down the list. Still Cushion doesn't get much use outside of Nekomata, to be honest, but it does provide 24% crit rate and a solid damage bonus, but only if you attack the enemy from behind. I'll rant about why this is a great mechanic with horrible execution way later down the road. Weeping Cradle is the only S-Rank support on this list, but it's also almost exclusively used for Arena. It's great for what it does, providing a lot of damage bonuses and pin ratio, but the engine's mechanics are designed for Arena and Nicole. Nicole's exclusive engine, also free by the way, it's just better for her. So the Restrained and Fusion Compiler are our last free engines to choose from. Restrained is an awesome general use W engine for stunners with a simple condition: hit the enemy, increase the days, and damage done. Fusion is similar to Weeping Cradle's case. It's great on paper, but almost exclusively used by on-field anomaly agents like Grace. So it's not like it's a bad option, but Weeping Gemini is free to craft, and it also provides more general uses. Don't let that stop you from running an on-field Yanagi with Fusion Compiler if you have her though. Kinda nasty. Now we can move into our big boy topics, the standard agents. Originally, I was going to walk this from the least valuable to the most valuable out of the standard agents, but as I wrote the script and started writing notes, I kind of just started rambling, right? Like I talked, like I'm doing right now. So they're not in order, but I'm going to let you know the order as I talk about them. At the end of the video, I also will include a very specific section just for my players who may or may not happen to have a standard copy already. Like you already have M0 something. So that'll be at the end. Anyway, first up is Nekomata. I love this character's design and gameplay, and it's for that same reason she's my biggest disappointment in the game. Nekomata has an amazing kit on paper that absolutely shreds through the early and mid game. Her attack speed, dash attack tech, and the ability to cleave through enemies in the blink of an eye should be something that puts her at the top of this list. But Nekomata unfortunately suffers from the curse of the devs not fully seeing through to their vision. Neko has all the cool stuff I mentioned earlier, but some of the lowest damage multipliers in the game. Her passive abilities work towards buffing herself, but then there's that whole thing about hitting enemies from the back for an increased amount of damage. She should be good, but she's not. Nekomata is fun as fuck though. Following up next is Grace, the big booba sister that's in love with dismantling robots just to see how they work. Another case of a character with a really fun kit, but pales in comparison to everyone else. Grace is our first S-Rank anomaly agent with a playstyle that focuses on a lot of dash dancing. Think of this almost like wave dashing in Super Smash Bros. You know, obviously not to that extreme, but she's one of the few characters in the game that has the ability to mix other actions inside of her basic attack string. This is where you get stuff like BA1-2 sidestep grenade or BA1 grenade, BA2, etc. She also builds up electric anomaly fast enough that makes disorder focused teams with her pack a punch. I don't want to dissuade anyone from picking her because I actually use Grace and Haramasa on my free-to-play account, but Grace is lacking in a way where Piper, an A-rank physical agent, is outperforming her in almost every way as a main DPS. Then there's Yanagi, our first limited S-rank anomaly agent that's also electric, and she's easily one of the best in the game. However, purely from a new player perspective, Grace works. She can be used in any anomaly-based team down the line, and her Mindscapes only make her better. Plus, she's got some really cool setups with Vivian and Bernice once you get to learn her. After that, we have Coleta, who I believe falls somewhere higher on the priority list, to be honest, but I want to talk about her now. Coleta is literally the fastest stunner in the game. Dodge counter into EX Slam is like hitting the Konami code back in the 90s. That enough warrants her as a viable choice for any new player if you don't already have a solid stunner on your account. With the new changes hitting characters like Ellen, this makes it even easier for Coleta to be slotted into the middle of a team while activating everyone's additional passives. Picking Coleta gives you the fastest stunner in the game, a buff to chain attacks, and gives you one of the sickest ultimate animations in the game when paired up with Ben, who's also free. Now, here's the nuance to Coleta and Lycan, who I'll talk about next. For brand new players or mega early ones, you are basically getting 2 free S-rank agents within your first couple of hours of playing the game. That time varies for everyone depending on how you play. It took me 30-ish minutes to do my own free-to-play count, but that's because I already played the beginning of the game 4 times. Best case scenario is you pull a stunner, then you pick a DPS, or you pull a DPS and then pick a stunner for that DPS. Getting free S-ranks in the beginning sets up everyone to have their first complete team without any real investment from the very start of the game, which now allows you to save and allocate all of those premium resources towards a second team full of limited agents if you want. And that is my secret tip of the vid. Lycan is next, since that's what I just said before the secret tip. Out of every agent in the game, Lycan is who I'd recommend picking up if we're just looking at the value of these 6 standard agents. Ice DPS have a huge lead in the meta right now for a number of reasons. 90% of the endgame is weak to Ice. Miyabi exists. Ellen just got an entire kit rework. Hugo is the single strongest damage DPS in the game. Freeze Anomaly is broken once you learn how to use it, and some of her strongest supporting rosters synergize the best with Ice DPS. It's only natural that our Wolf Boy pretending to be Jonathan Joestar is a cut above the rest. A unique charge attack mechanic with some distinct uses per team. Ice Res Shred on anything he hits, self-increasing daze values, a bonus stun damage multiplier, low-cost special moves, multiple build options that are actually useful, and then more. Lycan is just that good right now. Picking Lycan as one of your first S ranks is never a bad choice unless you're just never going to use an Ice agent in your life. Next up is Rena, a support agent that on paper is absolutely fantastic. She's the only agent in the game that specializes in the pin stat, which is basically like defense ignore from some other games. However, because of Pin's unique traits, we don't really see it used that much as a focus on kits. Grace's W engine has it, which led us to believe Grace loves Pin, and she does, but trying to fit that in when she also wanted electric damage bonus at the time felt like a lot. Right now, at the current state of endgame, these decisions are a little easier to make or build, and Rena has her fair share of teams she shines in, like double support, Aramasa shot comps, and even some Ellen comps if Mindscapes are involved. Now here's the thing, Rena has a lot of great stuff going for her, but the biggest drawback to this character is execution and time management. As of launch, we had a good change to the UI that allowed us to see Rena's puppets icon beneath the character's health bar right there at the top left. This is a visual indicator of how long this pin buff lasts from her puppets being on field, and as you can see, the timer is short. Most DPSs have combos or damage windows that last longer than 5 to 7 seconds And then the puppet timing itself is also dependent on the move Rina used. For example, EX Special has a 9-second timer while BA1 has 5 seconds. Then there's the distance traveled of these moves to be taken into consideration too. These little nuances of what Rina has in her kit are some major reasons why I love our favorite chef in the Victorian housemaids. But for a new player, this could be a little daunting to learn or keep up with all the time. With that being said, Rina is still a unit that I would place at the second most valuable option that any player could choose. Investing in her early on rewards you with plenty of time to fully learn the intricacies of her kit, how to use her in any team, and potentially pick up some extra Mindscapes to make her even stronger. Lastly, we have Soldier 11, a prodigal daughter of DPS. She had a great wave of being one of the worst DPS in people's eyes around launch, due to her having a perfect input mechanic most players weren't familiar with. Now at the time, I referenced fighting games and how to time your inputs to hit these mechanics perfectly. Shortly after that, Soldier 11 shot out to be one of the best DPS we had in the game up until new limited units began to rise. Then we got lighter, and Soldier shot back up to one of the best to have. Now we have Evelyn in the game, but that doesn't exactly remove Soldier's strength. It just means Evelyn is stronger with more options. And it's for that reason that I left Soldier as the last agent to talk about. Out of everyone here, Soldier is quite possibly the best DPS agent to help any of you learn the game while still providing long-term power to your account. She pairs well with any stunner available to you for free, works with almost every support in the game, and has some strong disk drive options that give you as a player even more variety in her performance. Soldier is a great DPS for beginner players and can easily help you get more familiar with wanting to learn more about all the other agents in Zenless Zone Zero. Plus, you can play her with Fufu when she comes out. So that's basically the end of the video, but I did say something earlier about a very specific section for my players who just happen to have copies of the character already and going over which Mindscapes might be worth investing into. For a small disclaimer, it's nearly impossible for me to give advice on every single scenario in Mindscape without being here all day. So to make things extremely simple, I'm going to estimate the bare minimum for this player in question is that they have an M0 of every standard character in the game. Now, in my opinion, the best M1 to grab is Rina's. The additional 5 seconds being added to all of her attacks is a big comfortability tool, but it's not necessary. There's also something to keep in mind with her W engine where her M1 doesn't affect the timing of her W engine at all, so you end up still having to play around with M0 times, but still a little bit more comfortability, totally depending on what you like to do. Soldier 11's M1 is okay, but super not needed unless you just suck at timing these basic attack inputs. Her M2 is more valuable, so consider M1 is a stepping stone in order to get that. Now Nekomata's M1 is an absolute game changer. It not only gives her the incentive to keep positioning against enemies on point, but also converts that condition to affect all stun enemies while ignoring 16% of their physical resistance. It's basically the kit she should have had at M0, but they didn't give it to her. And then her W engine kind of helps out with that too, but again, they didn't give it to her. So in short, M1 fixes Nekomata. Lycan's M1 is cool, nothing too crazy, but a good bonus to his days value through his EX skills. Coleta's M1 is similar to Lycan's, but I think hers has more value because it helps increase the speed of her stuns outside of the dodge counters, and it can be applied from a regular special attack or EX special attack. So basically, meterless days. Lastly, Grace's M1 is I being situational at best because this really depends on who's being used for the team. Extra energy for Haramasa, Rina, and even Grace herself would be fantastic, but that's about the biggest differences it'd make. This Mindscape isn't bad, but I believe a player would find more value in the other Mindscapes if they had multiple agents. But that's another pretense that you have every standard agent in the game. If you don't, then please make that decision for yourself with all the information I just gave you based on your own account. If you need any extra help though, feel free to ask questions in the comments down below or join my Discord. We honestly don't mind helping out. And with all that said, I'm out of here. If, however, you need some help making a decision between Fufu, Yixuan, Astra, and Caesar, check out this video right here. I've got some more videos coming to help you get accustomed to Season 2 of Zenless Zone Zero throughout the week. Then after that, we'll jump into some Yixuan CE server action. Subscribe, or YouTube will never tell you that I uploaded. I can't say my user outro because it's inappropriate for YouTube. Why I did the thingy with the, I did it too early. Smell you later.